In 20 years of studying cosmic energies, I've never seen such a concentrated force upon one sign as what's happening to Virgo right now. It feels as if the universe itself has stopped and turned its full gaze upon you. Something ancient, something genetic in the soul of Virgo, is being rewritten as we speak. And I must be honest with you, as I prepared this message, my hands were literally shaking. Because this isn't just another astrological shift. It's a cosmic intervention. A divine recalibration of destiny. Have you felt it, Virgo? That invisible pressure pressing against your chest at night. That sudden wave of emotion for no reason at all. That sense that something sacred is awakening within you, even as parts of your old self quietly die? What's unfolding now transcends every chart, every transit, every textbook ever written. It's rewriting the genetic code of your soul. Your cells, your thoughts, your spirit, all responding to a call that's older than time itself. You're not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared to rise into the frequency of your divine purpose, the one written into your spiritual DNA long before you were born. And if you've been feeling lost, fragile, or uncertain, it's because you're standing on the threshold between worlds. The caterpillar never understands the silence before wings appear. So listen carefully, Virgo, because what's coming isn't chaos, it's creation. The universe is speaking directly to you now. Not through coincidence, but through summoning. This message is not a warning. It's a calling. A sacred activation of everything you were meant to become. Before we step deeper into this revelation, if this message resonates with your soul, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Mindfulness Meditation. Your presence here isn't random. You were brought here by the current of destiny. Stay until the end, Virgo. Because by the time this video closes, you'll understand why the stars have chosen you in this very hour to carry the light of a new beginning. The dissolution of the old self, Virgo's sacred unraveling. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when silence grows too heavy to ignore. For Virgo, that moment is now. It is not the silence of peace, but the silence before transformation, when the familiar world begins to dissolve and the edges of identity blur. The routines that once brought certainty no longer fit. The names you've built your worth upon, the titles, the duties, the masks, begin to crumble like old parchment under divine light. You may feel it in your chest, that quiet panic, that tremor beneath the skin of daily life. The unease of watching yourself slip away while no one around you seems to notice. People still greet you as if you were whole, but inside, something sacred is being dismantled. This isn't the collapse of your life. It's the disassembly of what has kept your light confined. As an astrologer and observer of the human soul, I have come to see this not as destruction, but as the highest form of mercy. The universe does not erase you to punish you. It does so to set you free from what you no longer are. This isn't a breakdown, the cosmos whispers. It's the acceleration of your evolution. Virgo, you are not dying. You are dissolving. And yes, there is a difference. Death ends. Dissolution transforms. It is the sacred unraveling of a soul that has outgrown its shell. Think of the caterpillar, the quiet alchemist of nature. Inside its cocoon, it doesn't merely grow wings, it completely liquefies. Its body becomes an organic soup, a chaos of what once was, so that something unimagined can take shape. That's where you are now, in the dark soup of your becoming. Nothing makes sense. The mind screams for clarity. The heart aches for the safety of the old. You may even find yourself longing for problems you used to have, because at least they were familiar. But Spirit has closed that door, Virgo. The way back is gone. The only path now leads forward, through the unknown, through the dark womb of transformation, through faith that what is dying is not you, but the illusion of control. Every great soul in history has known this dissolution. The saints called it the dark night. The mystics called it the death of self. Even the stars go through it, collapsing into supernovas before birthing light 1,000 times brighter. It is a divine law. What is destined to shine must first break open. If you find yourself crying for no reason, losing motivation, or questioning your worth, do not rush to fix it. You are not broken. You are being remade. The universe has chosen to rebuild you on sacred ground. In this phase, your pain is not an enemy, it is a midwife. Each tear softens the walls of the cocoon. Each loss creates room for the light that is to come. Here is my personal reflection, Virgo. As one who has walked through their own unraveling, the human tendency is to cling. We hold on to our image, our success, our stability, because we mistake them for identity. But the soul knows better. It will shake what must be shaken until truth remains. It will strip away until all that's left is love. When you can no longer recognize yourself, that's when the miracle begins. Because now, the divine has space to move. In your emptiness, grace will enter. In your silence, a new voice will speak. The more you surrender, the more you'll sense it, a quiet pulse beneath the chaos, the heartbeat of your future self whispering, "I'm still here. I've just been waiting for you to let go." So don't rush your resurrection. Sit inside the cocoon. Let the old self melt away. The Virgo who emerges will not be the same one who entered. She will carry new eyes, new breath, new peace. She will know that endings were never punishments, only invitations to evolve. And when you finally stretch those unseen wings, you will understand, this was never a breakdown. It was your soul remembering what it means to fly. The precision of the cosmic surgery, Virgo's sacred stripping of the old self. There comes a moment in every Virgo's life when the universe stops whispering and begins to operate. It's not a punishment. It's a surgery. The kind that doesn't use scalpels but cosmic precision, cutting through illusions, fears, and the hardened armor that Virgo has built for decades. This is not destruction. This is divine recalibration. For months, maybe years, Virgo has carried the weight of being the reliable one, the one who fixes, plans, organizes, and holds the world together even as their own walls crack in silence. But when the celestial currents begin to converge, something deeper awakens. The truth that healing sometimes requires dismantling everything you thought made you strong. Each Virgo now stands under a different kind of light, one that doesn't flatter, but reveals. It is surgical light, exposing the tissues of truth. The universe, in its mercy, aims directly at the areas Virgo once believed were invincible. The professional life, the relationships, the self-image, the very pillars that gave structure to identity are now being challenged, not to destroy, but to purify. For those born at the dawn of Virgo's reign, the trials arrive through the corridors of authority and vocation. The career you once mastered may suddenly feel hollow. The control you took pride in holding now slips through your fingers like grains of divine sand. You are being asked to release your obsession with perfection and step into authenticity. For you, the fall of control is not a loss, it is liberation. Because only when the external structures collapse can you rediscover the inner architecture that was always divine. For the mid-born Virgo, this is a season of emotional surgery. You are asked to remove the armor from your heart. The walls that once protected you from betrayal now prevent the experience of true love. The universe is not punishing your sensitivity, it is sharpening it into wisdom. Every heartbreak, every disappointment is not a verdict, it's an incision. A clean, merciful cut that allows light to reach the wounded chambers of your soul. You are learning that vulnerability is not weakness, it's sacred exposure. And for those born near the end of Virgo's season, the challenge strikes at the core of self-expression. For years you've hidden behind usefulness, doing what is expected rather than what is inspired. But the cosmic surgeon demands truth. The question is not, who do others need me to be? But, who am I when no one is watching? You may find yourself trembling as old identities peel away, but know this, when you stop performing, the universe finally sees you. Across all these phases, one truth remains unshakable, this surgery is precise. Nothing is taken that isn't blocking your evolution. The cosmic hand removes only what you've outgrown. It cuts away self-doubt, people-pleasing, the addiction to being right, the fear of not being enough. And in that stripping, Virgo rediscovers something ancient, the quiet power of simply being. I often say that Virgo's transformation is not loud, it's holy. It doesn't shout through chaos, it hums through surrender. This is the kind of purification that monks write about and mystics whisper of, where the ego bleeds, but the soul sings. You are being invited into that kind of sacred stillness where your purpose doesn't need to be proven, it just is. From a psychological lens, this is the deconstruction of the competence complex. Virgos have built their worth upon performance. I am valuable because I am useful. But the universe now flips that script. You are useful because you are valuable. This inversion is the turning point of your rebirth. You are no longer the healer who serves from depletion. You are the healed who creates from wholeness. So if your life feels like it's being disassembled piece by piece, know this. It's because the divine surgeon knows exactly where to cut. precision without cruelty, discomfort without destruction. You are not losing your life, you are being edited by God. When this operation ends, Virgo will not return to who they were. They will rise lighter, clearer, radiant in their new skin, not perfect, but whole. And as the last stitch of the old identity dissolves, a new rhythm begins to pulse within, the rhythm of truth. Because in the end, the cosmic surgery was never about pain, it was about precision. About removing everything that isn't love. And for Virgo, that is the highest healing of all. The sacred metamorphosis, Virgo's calling to lead through truth. There comes a point in every divine design when the student is no longer protected by the shell of certainty, when the universe removes every comfort, every illusion of control, and whispers, "Now, you must lead." Virgo, that time is here. But this leadership is not born from perfection or logic. It rises from the ashes of your own brokenness. For too long, you've been trained to lead through precision, to fix, to perfect, to anticipate, to serve quietly without faltering. Yet the world that once rewarded those patterns is collapsing. Humanity no longer needs the flawless leader, it needs the honest one. The one who bleeds truth. The one who trembles yet still stands. You're evolving from those who lead through control, the cosmos tells you, into those who guide through truth. This is not a poetic compliment. It's a divine commission. You are being prepared to represent a new archetype of leadership, not one born from power, but from presence. The kind of leader who doesn't command by fear, but awakens through compassion. I have often reflected on this paradox, that Virgo, the sign most associated with service, is being called to become the voice of quiet authority in a noisy world. But this authority doesn't roar, it resonates. It's not built on superiority, but sincerity. It's the kind of leadership that says, I don't have all the answers, but I have walked through the fire, and I'm still here. The sacred metamorphosis is not glamorous. It demands that you surrender everything that once defined you. It asks you to stand naked in your authenticity, to show your tears as symbols of strength, and your scars as maps of wisdom. The soul's evolution always begins where the ego's empire ends. This transformation is not about being stronger, it's about being truer. It's about shifting from obedience to devotion, from control to trust, from fear to empowerment. It's the movement from fixing the world to healing through example. Throughout history, the ones who shaped humanity's consciousness were rarely the ones who appeared unshakable. They were the ones who dared to be vulnerable in public. Prophets who cried, saints who doubted, healers who had first been wounded. Their leadership was born in crucibles, not on pedestals. Virgo, your crucible has been long. You've known the ache of isolation, the exhaustion of holding everything together. You've watched people turn to you for strength while you quietly unraveled inside. But what if all of that, the loneliness, the disappointments, the invisible labor, were not punishments, but initiations? Every heartbreak, every closed door, every night you whispered prayers into the dark, these were sacred ceremonies, designed to soften your edges and expand your compassion. Because only those who have been humbled by life can hold the weight of divine service. You are now standing at the edge of an ancient shift, from serving through duty to leading through love. The universe is reconfiguring your light to guide others through the same tunnels you once crawled through. This is no longer about being the helper, it's about being the healer. No longer about proving your worth, it's about embodying grace. When I look at the Virgo energy now, I see something extraordinary. A collective soul being refined into a vessel for truth. Your empathy is no longer a weakness. Your sensitivity is your compass. The wisdom you carry was not learned from books, but earned in the trenches of human experience. You are not fragile, you are sacredly porous, capable of feeling the world's ache without losing your center. This is what it means to evolve spiritually. It's not about ascending above pain, but descending into it with faith. It's not about shining brighter, it's about shining truer. The soul that leads from vulnerability lights paths no intellect could ever design. And so, Virgo, the ceremony of your evolution begins, not with applause, but with silence. Not with clarity, but with trust. As your old self dissolves, remember this, the world does not need your perfection, it needs your presence. Because in a time when many lead from fear, you are being chosen to lead from faith. When others manipulate for power, you will magnetize through truth. And when the world forgets how to be kind, you will remind them, not by preaching, but by living love itself. This is your sacred metamorphosis, the quiet revolution of the Virgo soul. Not the end of your story, but the unveiling of your divine purpose. And when you rise this time, you will not just rise for yourself, you will rise for all of us. The emergence of the new Virgo, the rebirth of the inner lighthouse. There comes a silence after the storm, not the hollow quiet of defeat, but the sacred hush that follows revelation. That is where Virgo now stands. On the other side of dissolution. On the other side of every tear shed in secret. And in that silence, something extraordinary is happening. The new Virgo is emerging, not polished, not perfect, but profoundly real. After so long fighting invisible battles, you awaken one morning and realize, peace has arrived, not as a gift, but as a consequence of surrender. It doesn't roar or announce itself, it simply is. Like the steady hum of the ocean after a long night of waves, there's a calm within you that doesn't depend on circumstances anymore. You've stopped chasing closure, stopped demanding understanding. You've begun to trust the quiet rhythm of your own soul. That's the first sign of rebirth, peace that doesn't need proof. 4 years, Virgo has sought safety in order, validation in excellence, worth in usefulness. But in this new era, that paradigm dissolves. The confidence that now rises within you has no audience. It does not beg to be seen. It comes from knowing who you are beyond performance, from finally accepting that your value was never conditional on your perfection. I've observed this awakening in many Virgos during seasons of upheaval. There's a subtle but unmistakable transformation. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop trying to fix everything and start allowing things to unfold. The old Virgo tried to save the world. The new Virgo simply embodies healing. And it shows. People around you begin to notice something different, a quiet strength, a grounded warmth. They can't quite describe it, but they feel safe in your presence. Not because you say the right words, but because you are the right energy. Your light no longer tries to shine, it simply illuminates. This is the paradox of the evolved Virgo. When you stop trying to be perfect, you become powerful. When you stop explaining, you become magnetic. When you stop rescuing, you start leading. There's something deeply biblical, almost archetypal, about this transformation. Like Moses descending the mountain with a different face, the same man, but carrying divine light. Or like the phoenix, not born from triumph but from ashes. The Virgo soul is experiencing that same alchemy, the kind of rebirth that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but with stillness. The stillness that says, I no longer need to prove I'm chosen, I know that I am. In psychological terms, this is the point of full integration, when the shadow and the light no longer fight, but coexist in harmony. The Virgo who emerges now understands that control was never strength. Trust is. That service is not submission, but sacred offering. That humility isn't self-erasure, it's self-awareness. The new Virgo becomes a healer not by profession, but by presence. You've been tempered by pain, refined by disappointment, softened by love. You now carry within you what the world is starving for, authenticity. A calm that says, you can fall apart in front of me, and I will not judge you, because I too have been broken and made whole again. And that's why, in this next chapter, Virgo becomes a collective force. Your energy shifts from self-perfection to planetary healing. You become a living lighthouse, not to rescue others, but to remind them of their own direction. When others lose faith, your very existence becomes proof that rebirth is possible. I believe this is the deeper mission of the Virgo archetype in our generation. You are not here to fix humanity, you are here to evolve it. Through your example, through your compassion, through your unwavering honesty, you model what it means to live consciously, to love without conditions, to lead without ego, to shine without noise. So, if you've been wondering why life dismantled everything you thought you were, this is why. Because the universe was never punishing you, it was preparing you. Because the person you are becoming could never fit inside the limits of who you were. Virgo, your light is no longer a torch that burns you out, it's a beacon that guides others home. You no longer absorb pain, you transmute it. You no longer fear endings, you embody rebirth. And as you rise, those around you rise too. That's the quiet miracle of your existence. You don't have to try to change the world, your presence already does. This is the emergence of the new Virgo, not a symbol of perfection, but of peace. Not a servant bound by duty, but a soul liberated by love. And from this stillness, you will lead, not as the one who knows everything, but as the one who has finally remembered who they are. What's happening to you, Virgo, isn't destruction, it's rebirth. The storm you walked through was never meant to break you, it was meant to reveal you. Every tear, every silence, every piece of yourself that fell away was not loss, it was initiation. You have been tempered in a sacred fire, and that fire has purified your soul until only what is true remains. The pain you feel today will become the compassion you offer tomorrow. The uncertainty that once frightened you will turn into a deep trust that can't be shaken. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The universe saw your strength long before you did, and it chose you, not because you were perfect, but because you were ready to become real. You are being forged into someone indestructible. What you thought was an ending was only the clearing of space for something higher, quieter, and infinitely more luminous. The wisdom rising within you now was born in the ashes of everything you once clung to. And as you step forward, you will lead not through control, but through presence, through the steady light of someone who has faced their own darkness and emerged radiant. So breathe, Virgo. The weight is lifting. The night is almost over. The same force that once stripped you bare is now clothing you in clarity, in peace, in a kind of power that no longer needs to prove itself. Your story will remind others that it is possible to die to an old life and still live to tell the tale, that resurrection is not a miracle reserved for the divine, but a birthright of the courageous. When you look back, you will see that nothing was wasted. The breaking was the blessing. The surrender was the salvation. And now, as you rise, the universe itself is watching in awe. You are not losing yourself, Virgo. You are being reborn. And in your rebirth, something extraordinary is being written into the history of light.